Uh, what's up, guys? Basically, this I have to do it again. I have to re-explain this. Basically, I have a problem with posting new videos and not completing them. Now, I do plan on doing some. I do plan on completing my videos. Now, if you're wondering if you're gonna be like, like I have to wait another month for the next What If Deku had, the Omnitrix. Don't worry, okay? Cause I already recorded it, and I plan on continuing my What If Deku had Miles Morales. And then after that, I canceled my What If Deku had Overhaul and What If Deku was Shinra. To be honest, I just copied my What If Deku was Shinra for another YouTuber who actually like deleted his channel. But anyway, I think after that I'll continue What If Deku had was Gran Torino's grandson. Now I'm going to start doing these one shot videos where basically you only do it once and either yeah, these one shots either will finish on this part or never get a part 2. Now, if this one if I do one shots that are really good, I think in the future I will maybe redo them as a full series. But for now, I'm gonna start just doing one shots. And I think I'm gonna do two and test how they do. Now let's continue. This is a one shot of what if Deku had a combustion quirk. Now this quirk will basically allow him not this quirk will allow him to detonate himself, as basically he can blow himself up, and he won't die, okay? And he will actually be set on fire too. Now the only side effect to this quirk is when he uses his combustion quirk, it ends up sort of making his blood hot a little, which if you get like super hot blood, that can lead to, you know, nosebleeds and you passing out and such, which is why his blood doesn't get hot that easily, which is why he doesn't get nosebleeds or whatever. Now, basically how we're going to start this one shot again is Deku basically will be 4 years old, and Deku being and Deku would actually be in a classroom as they'd be talking about getting quirks, as Deku wouldn't have gotten his quirk, as they'd be like, Deku's a loser. And remember, like, the teachers would go by Deku and be like, it's okay, Deku, it's okay, Midoriya, you're a winner in my book. As the teacher would be like, Midoriya, you're a winner in my book. As the teacher would be like, yes, they, as in this time, they wouldn't focus so much time on Bakugo. They wouldn't be praising Bakugo, and they would just not overlook Midoriya. As Midoriya would actually be like, thanks, as Midoriya, as there's the Midoriya would start getting hot as the teachers, the people like hugging Midoriya would be like, "Do you have a fever?" As Midoriya would be like, "Nope." As he would just explode right there. As the kids would start running out and the sprinklers would activate, and basically everybody would have seen what happened as they were like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And Midoriya would actually be on the floor, passed out with his nose bleeding and such. Despite, yeah, because he just used his quirk for the first time and he was just dropped on the back of his head. Anyway, as the doctors would say, well, man, it's your son's quirk. He finally unlocked it. Congratulations, I guess? As they'd be like, your son's quirk is called combustion. He can basically explode himself, but it doesn't affect his actual body, more his blood. and body temperatures. The doctor would say, as they'd be like, really? Going to the hospital as they start interrogating Midoriya, as Midoriya would say he didn't know about his quirk, as the police officers would say, yeah, that is true. It's a shame he killed those two. It's a shame he killed those two teachers, though, as Midoriya's eyes would widen. And Inko wasn't in the room to make sure like she wasn't trying to tell Deku to lie or anything. So, like, Deku would actually be shocked as one of the policemen would be like, why would you tell him that? He was going to find out, but it didn't have to be now. He's just a kid. Or he could never have found out. The doctor would say, oh, sorry, kid. Well, maybe you could just forget about that. And Deku would start to cry. And such as the doctor, as you know, the officer would say, you effed up, man. And the dude would say, dang it. I'm gonna get another strike, the dude would say. Now, now Midoriya would, feel sad as people would actually start avoiding Midoriya and not talk to him or even give him eye contact. And Bakugo would actually bully Midoriya hard. Now, the teachers wouldn't even, want to touch, nobody would want to touch or talk to Midoriya, as Midoriya would actually start feeling neglected, and the only person who would actually talk or touch him would be Inko. But now Inko, no, she's not even bad in this version. Okay, basically, Midoriya gets called a villain, and the main thing that sets Midoriya is Bakugo. As Bakugo, like, you ever have that your mom or that one friend who always brings up the same thing for no good reason. Basically, Bakugo's always talking about, yeah, well, remember when you killed those two teachers? As you know, Midoriya really gets mad and stuff, but he has to control his anger, as Midoriya basically does train his quirk to make sure he doesn't hurt anybody, but it would go way too far, as basically Midoriya would be told, as Midoriya would be walking home one day as the sludge villain would try to attack Midoriya, and Midoriya would end up blowing up as he was in high stress. But he's able to control himself now, and Midoriya would blow up, and he'd end up blowing up as All Might would see Midoriya, and his Midoriya's like body would be on fire, because after you do blow up, you do get set on fire. Of course, it wouldn't hurt him, as All Might would actually punch Midoriya, and you'd be like, "Stop, villain!" As Midoriya would be like, "I'm not a villain." And All Might would say, "Yes, you are. You're a villain." As Midoriya would actually, start to cry. All Might would be like, "No." Midoriya would be like, "I'm one of your best friends. I'm not a villain. I'm a kid." As All Might would be like, no one with your type of quirk can be a hero, kid. So you must be a villain. As Midoriya would actually get mad, hearing his idol, his his dreams in front of him say that Midoriya would let off a giant explosion as he'd start to have a small nosebleed, as even All Might couldn't withstand this explosion because he was already at the edge of his time limit anyway. So you get it. So All Might, Midoriya would create a giant explosion as it actually sent All Might off Midoriya. As Midoriya would start going home, and Midoriya would enter his house, close his door, and be like mad. As Inko would ask Midoriya if he was okay, and Midoriya would be like, yeah, I am okay. Midoriya would go as he'd see his All Might posters as he'd start to rip them down and stab them. Now, Midoriya would decide that if he can't be a hero, he was going to become a villain, and he was tired of people treating him like one, and he might as well just be one. So Midoriya would actually get really mad, and Midoriya would start going to the gym and such, as Midoriya would be preparing a giant event. there was a gathering of heroes. Basically, just some random heroes. So, basically, Midoriya would actually, he would get a job as maintenance there, as to work there as like a janitor, as he'd work there for like he'd work there for like 4 months, as he was preparing for this. As the day of the event, Midoriya would tell his mom, "Thank you and I love you." As he'd walk in, as Midoriya would walk in, as they'd be the pro heroes, as they'd all laugh, as Midoriya would actually, would go to the bathroom as he changed into an outfit, and at the end Midoriya would be like, can we get a picture? As they'd be like, yeah, and Midoriya would pretend to press the button as Midoriya would run back as when people press the button and then run to get in position. Midoriya would pretend to take the button and pretend to run in position, as I'm gonna say the camera was actually not sort of far, as they'd be like, why is he running at us at full speed? As Midoriya would run as he jumped, letting off one of a giant explosion as it would shake the building, and Midoriya would get up as he'd say, dang, there's a durable computer that you gave me. Wait, sorry. Midoriya would be like, dang, maybe I went too far. As he'd look around as there'd be limbs spread apart, as Midoriya would be like, what have I done? Or why didn't I do this earlier? Huh? Who's the villain now? Well, I am, but still, maybe if you didn't call me villain, I wouldn't be a villain, he'd say, as he'd laugh, as it'd feel good. Midoriya would say, no, I'm not a psychopath, as Midoriya would be on the run, and, he'd get away as he'd make it to the woods, as going to the woods, as he'd basically see Stain, as Midoriya would say, stay back or I'll kill you, as Stain would say, try, kid, as, Midoriya didn't want to do anything because the police were after him, as, Stain would say, either you don't have a quirk, you're not trying to draw attention, or you have a loud quirk, huh? As Midoriya would be like, how do you know? As Stain would say, your picture is literally on all the news sites, kid. I would notice you. As he'd say, but you got talent. I was actually planning on taking out those heroes. So, the trickiest one would have been Ingenium. As Midoriya would have also killed Ingenium. As Stain would be like, kid, you got promise. How about we go, you know, to my hideout and I'll teach you some ropes. As Midoriya would be like, sure, okay, as basically Midoriya, they Midoriya would just be driving and he decide. Sorry, sometimes I say stuff without noticing. As they'd go to Stain's hideout and so forth and so such. As Stain's hideout would be a building, a destroyed building. As there'd be a secret room with connections to like the hero network and just some rooms with some backup weapons and training grounds. As Thane would be like, train whatever you want. We have weapons, we have he just a lot of things. And Midoriya would actually pick up a sword as he'd be ready to train. And Stain and Midoriya would train a little and such. And Stain would say, kid, despite your quirk, you're actually pretty skilled. As Midoriya would be like, thank you. As Stain would ask Midoriya, why did he start doing this? As Midoriya would be like, well, I'm just living up to everybody's expectations. Everybody always called me a villain and said I'd make a great villain, so I'm just living up to them. As Stain would say, well, okay. Anyway, let's go on patrol, Stain would say as they'd go out. Now, going out as they cross a hero called Manuel. Now, crossing a hero called Manuel, as Manuel would be like, "You're the hero killer Stain, and I've seen you from the police." As Manuel would say, "I may not be able to handle you two, but I can still hold you off." As Mandalay would actually grab a bottle of water as he'd start to shoot water at Stain, and Midoriya would run to Manuel as he would jump onto a trash can and jump onto Manuel as Manuel would stop, knowing Midoriya's quirk, but Midoriya would actually end up turning it into like a full body slam. Like, if you watch WWE, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and and Stain would have gone in for the kill. Stain would be like, "Yeah," as they just be like, "Yeah." Now we skip a couple months as Midoriya and Stain just do the hero work and such, and Stain talks about, and Midoriya's like, "Hey, the UA Sports Festival's coming up. Why don't we cause some ruckus?" As Stain be like, "What are you talking about?" As Midoriya be like, "I want to bomb the sports festival." As Stain would be like, "No, killing the heroes is one thing, but you're killing innocent people. There are some people there that didn't mock you at all." As Deku would be like, "But what if they would have?" As Stain would say, "Then it would be right to do what you have done, but they haven't." As Midoriya would actually be like, "Yeah, well, whatever," and such. As the sports festival would go by, and Midoriya and Stain would still be doing their work, as they would have just completed a job, as Shigaraki would come up behind them as he talk about, um, Shigaraki would come behind them as he'd talk about the same thing as Stain would enter the bar alongside Midoriya. Stain would tell Midoriya to get his quirk ready if he needed to and stuff. As Midoriya would be like, "Okay," as Shigaraki would be like, "I know who you are, kid. Calm down. I don't want you to blow us all up." As Shigaraki would explain his old operation, and he would have like got like as the hero killer would say no as he tried to like cut Shigaraki's fingers or like whatever. Shigaraki would actually start fighting back. As basically they would after that they dropped Stain and Midoriya back off a few days later as Ida would have actually gone looking for Stain as he would have just taken up a job with a different pro hero called Native. And if I said that he died, then I lied, okay? He would have gone up with a different pro hero called Native as Midoriya as the number would be there as uh, Ida would go to basically try to avenge his brother as he would be stopped, and Midoriya would be like, "Should I just kill this kid?" As Midoriya, as Stain would be talking about that as, Stain would be like, "Sure," as Midoriya would snap Ida's neck, killing him, as Midoriya would be like, "That kid was kind of annoying. You can tell he was a genuine brother." He'd say as Native would coming as Native would have actually called for backup as Native would say, "Oh shoot," as Midoriya would be like, "Stain, throw me," you know, as Stain would throw Midoriya, and Midoriya would actually tackle Native, blowing him up, as Endeavor would then come, as they'd be like, "Oh yeah," with Todoroki as Todor Todoroki would try to freeze Stain, but Stain would dodge as Todoroki would shoot more ice, and Midoriya would run right into it, exploding it, and such as. But with enough more pro heroes would overcome as they'd apprehend Stannis. Midoriya would be the only problem as he'd keep uploading more and more explosions, but eventually he would have been knocked out and such as they'd go to jail and Midoriya would still be sent to Tartarus where Midoriya would be in a electric, it would be an explosion proof, room and Midoriya would actually get life in jail for what he did to the pro heroes and killing Ida. And the Ingenium family would still be mourning the loss of Ingenium and now Ida. And that's where I leave it off. Now, if you're a manga reader, never mind. That's where I leave this off. I hope you enjoyed this one thing, and there will never be a part 2, so bye.